How long has it been since the death of Michael?
It's almost 10 weeks total.
10 weeks total?
Mm-hmm.
During those 10 weeks total, do you think that Chief Barber has been transparent with the family in the findings, or do you think that the police department has been forthcoming in trying to work with the family?
Obvious question, that is no. Answer to that is no.
No.
Transparency. Ever since I think 3 or 4 days after the incident, we have had no other contact with him. And main reason of that is as soon as he knew that we had a family lawyer attorney for us, they immediately stopped any contacts with the family. Transparency, though, I would like to add to that is he has not even been transparent with the public.
Okay.
And I say that because a lot of the things that he has said, it's been a calculated effort to ensure that what I call is a way to manipulate the possible jury pool for a grand jury.
Okay.
For this case. Okay. You put certain things out into the public, you make certain statements, and many of the people in the area immediately believe everything that someone in his stature will say. But in fact, a lot of times he would say things that he had no valid proof in. For instance, you know, one of the first comments he said, which I really feel that this should never come from a chief of a department, is he made a comment that had Michael never been driving a stolen car and carrying a stolen weapon, that this would have never happened.
I agree.
And that is a statement that no chief at no time should have said about an incident. What he has done is pull from the normal police handbook on handling these cases, and he's went out and victimized the victim.
Correct.
And we see this across the nation in police cases. So has he been forthright, transparent? No, he is not. There are a lot of things, a lot of facts about this case that he has not said himself in the public, although myself, other family members, other civic leaders have stated it. He has not stated it because although there are facts in the case, he doesn't want to put negative facts out against the department themselves.
Right.
So transparency, no, he has not been transparent, not at all.
Well, even from day one with the situation with the gun, that is scary. Because Chief Barber has came on the media several times with different statements. First he says there was a gun found in the car. Then he came back and I believe he told the mother that they didn't find a gun on Michael. And then he comes back a couple of days later and says, oh well, we chalked it up in protocol, and Michael, the gun was found on Michael at the emergency room. So what do you think about that?
Well,
I'll tell you, I think that if you listen to the press conference that he gave, he specifically said those were statements from the officer. So it wasn't proof that there was a gun. And I'm not saying, I can only say what I know. And what I know is the night that it happened, the night that Michael was killed, I specifically asked him, his assistant chief was there, several other people were there, my family was there, and I specifically asked him, did Michael have a gun? And he told me no, but a gun was recovered. I asked him several other questions that he couldn't answer, like, well, then why did the officer shoot Michael? And he said that officer was given his statement and that was under investigation. So I feel like if you can look me in my face and tell me my son didn't have a gun, and there were other things you couldn't answer for me, you told me they were a part of an investigation, there had to be some truth in that. And if you tell me that on a Monday night, and then Tuesday morning you tell the public about some gun being on Michael, it doesn't add up. And it doesn't sit well with me for his position and for transparency. I have yet to have a conversation with our mayor. And to me, it's unfortunate because I have someone who's running for mayor who came in during my worst time of my life to introduce himself, to pray with my family, and the active mayor has yet to say one word to me. And I just don't think it's right.
Would that be Jimmy Gardner?
Yeah. Okay. He came to my sister's house and offered his condolences and assured me that, you know, he's praying for justice to be served. And I think it goes a long way. And there's other people who were in council that came as well, but I feel like if they say transparency, it should be across the board. It shouldn't be in the protection of an officer. It should be for my son as well, and I don't think that's happening.
Okay.
And let me add to that is with the transparency, and this goes back to police. I don't want to say necessarily corruption, but I want to say, I will say, as I sat at the public safety meeting the other day, had one of the councilmen say, well, cameras, you know, we would no longer have these issues if cameras were always used and everything was caught on camera. Well, one of the things that we do know in this case is this officer's body camera was not on.
Correct.
But from my investigation, that was a new vehicle.
Correct.
That came with a dashboard camera. That has not been released.
The responding officers' body?
The responding officers that were there. There were a number of them that were there that were on duty who had body cameras.
Physical contact with
none
Michael.
of that, yes, none of that was released. And I know for a fact that a number of those officers walked up to Michael and checked his body while he was there on scene.
That's great.
And the assumption is they were looking for a weapon. If the officer's statement was true that he had a weapon on him,
and there was a threat,
someone should have been able to recover that weapon there at the scene, and those body cameras would be able to justify it. And that is where transparency comes in. Look at all the other cases in all the other states across America that's been going on. Many of the departments say the same thing. We want to be transparent. And they release that footage and let people see it for themselves.
That's right.
And make a decision for themselves whether or not it was justified or not justified.
That's right.
One of the things I say, and I want to add to that is, you know, as I listen to that councilman who says, if we had everything on video or pictures or something of that, we would be able to see the truth and get to the truth. Well, as a black man in this nation, I would have agreed with him wholeheartedly.
Right.
But I will say this. Many people don't realize it, but ever since 1991, when Rodney King was beat, brutalized, brutalized, beat by 4 or 5 officers in the LAPD.
That's right.
And it was on camera.
That's correct.
By a news person.
That's right.
Ever since then, we have seen there are many cases where police officers have been videotaped. What the average and normal person would say, that is wrong.
That's right.
That is inappropriate. That was against protocol, against procedure, and they still get away with it. Several of those officers from the Rodney King case went on to become police chiefs in other departments.
That's correct.
So we say now, everything you have on tape or video will bring out the truth. I just, it's hard for me to believe that.
Well,
but it does at least give the public a way to say what they feel and what happened exactly.
Right. Well, you know, it's almost as is the insult to the black community is that when you have that type of footage and police officers still are vindicated, they walk away. Situation in New Orleans, Glover is shot by New Orleans Police Department, taken, put in the trunk of a car, sit on fire, and those police officers are walking the street. If me and you did that, we would be in prison for the rest of our life. Now that tells me that there's another element in play here. Either we are dealing with white supremacists that has invaded the police force, or we just have a corrupt police force. Or the laws that was established to protect us are not for the African American community.
Well, I don't know if that has all completely occurred. I have my opinions on it, but I'm gonna try to stick with fact on that. But I will say, and this is a fact, that not all police officers are bad police officers.
I agree.
Okay. Do I support the police department? Yes, I support the police department because we have to have someone
That's correct.
out there in that capacity to work that job. But what I do know, with the blue line of silence, this is why, my opinion, that we continue to have these problems. Because let's just be frank about it. Why does the good cops not speak out and do anything against those that are bad and corrupt that they know about?
Right.
Is the reason behind that many people don't know is that if a cop speaks out against another cop, they are blackballed.
Right, correctly.
They will not promote. They will do many things to that cop to almost make them, they're attempting to make them quit and leave the department.
Okay.
And most cops, they don't want to lose, it's a job security with everyone. Whether you're at work at Ingalls or you work at the hospital or you work out here, as a garbage man. You have your job, and that's job security. You're there to take care of your family. So an officer many times don't want to put themselves in that position to lose their job, their livelihood, over something that they know is wrong.
Or maybe feel their life.
And that is true.
Right.
It's you're starting to see more cops do that. There was a big case in New York City where there were several cops that actually recorded supervisors telling them to do things like go out and target minorities, go out and ticket, go out and arrest specific groups. That was recorded. There's a bunch of them that came out together that said that they were getting pressure from their hires to do certain things. So there are cops that are starting maybe to pool together to do that. But as long as that blue line of silence continues, the general public will never ever find out just how deep the problems are within a department, especially when the department polices themselves.
Chief Barber came out and said that the officer gave Michael a command to put his cell phone down. That's when he saw a weapon and shot Michael. That didn't occur. That didn't happen. I was one of those eyewitnesses that was actually there to say that Michael never reached for a weapon. He never lowered his hands at any given point in time. So for Chief Barber to come out and say this is facts, he's only getting his facts from the person that did the shooting.
That's correct.
It seems as if though when they took him and put him back on a desk job, it was as if though to say we believe him and not the witnesses. And for one of the witnesses to actually be Caucasian, that was actually a witness to it, that actually at the time said that he was so outraged with it that he wanted to help Michael. And and the only reason he didn't go to Michael's defense was because backup came. So to me, that speaks volumes, as if though he's saying he didn't do anything to deserve death.
That is absolutely correct.
This is what every witness is saying.
To this day, there is no evidence to justify the shooting. There's nothing, there's no video, there's no any type of footage or forensics that justify the shooting, which is why one of the reasons my attorney is saying, hey, there should be charges placed against this officer. He should have to face a jury trial to prove that he was justified in shooting Michael. And we've told that to the DA. We've suggested that he at least be charged with manslaughter or negligent homicide so that he can go to court, face a jury, face a judge, and prove that he was justified in shooting Michael. And that's what we're asking for. Because that's the only way the truth's going to come out, is if he gets to go to court, face a judge, and explain what he did and why he did it. And I think it's hard when they don't charge him. And I know for myself, it's like, at least if I commit a crime, I got to go prove myself. I'm innocent until guilty, proven guilty. And he took that from Michael, and I just feel like they are brushing it off, and he doesn't have to face the same consequences that they're condemning my son for.
See, with us, we would have to do, they'll read us our Miranda's right, and we give a statement, and they would tell us anything that we would say can be used against us in a court of law. Police officer doesn't get that. He can actually go back there and say, hey, look, I shot him 50 times because I didn't like him, and it cannot be used against him in court. I think that is an injustice, because what you have actually happened here, you have people that's taking advantage of that authority to say, I can kill you and get away with it and won't do a day in jail. This is the part that's heartbreaking, is they get a paid vacation. Mm-hmm. They immediately go to a psychological evaluation to talk to a psychiatrist, even before they give a statement to IAD or the FBI. They give them time to go and gather their thoughts. But the witnesses are immediately asked to go down to the station and give a statement. Why? Because they're giving this officer time to hear every statement that the witnesses gave. Now he can give his account.
I give one better.
Of what he says happened.
I'll tell you one better. As we talk about statements, as we were discussing earlier, in every case or every incident that an officer responds to, he's supposed to be given a police report. It's supposed to be filed.
That's correct.
Okay? It's given a case number and the police report is filed, and it's public record. In this instance, the mother actually went down to get a copy of the police report. They told her she couldn't get it. Basically, the reason was it's still under investigation, although we already knew that the investigation was completed on the Mobile Police Department's part, and it was turned over to the DA. All their files were turned over to the DA. So therefore, that police report copy still should be at the police department. Unfortunately, I do have a memory that I can recall. The second week after the incident, I went to a meeting at Government Square that involved, it had on the panel the FBI, the DOJ, the Mobile Police Department, the lawyers, the DA, everybody was there, with the exception of the mayor. And it was open to the community, and there were questions being asked back and forth. One of the questions that an older gentleman got up, and I could give you detailed facts about this older gentleman, what he was doing, how he asked the question to the police chief, was there a written report done? And he kind of beat around the bush saying, well, basically what he was trying to inform the gentleman was that they took a recorded statement, the homicide detective and IED took a recorded statement from him, but there was no written report done at that time. The gentleman kept on trying to get, well, why, where's the written report? Where you document? And the gentleman, again, continued on with it. This Ricardo Woods, the attorney for the city, tried to elaborate on that. But the bottom line to it is the reason the mother or anyone cannot get a written documentation or account of what went on is because they did not make him do one. And that is a travesty, because any report, when you document it in writing, you can't go back and change it.
That's correct.
And it should have been done within 24 hours of what went on.
One of the persons that sit in on the autopsy of Michael, Mr. Ron Ali, tell me a little bit about your feelings on that after you found out that he, the president of the NAACP for the Mobile chapter, sit in on that autopsy, but then to find out he's on the advisory board for Chief Barber.
Here's my take on that. We go back to transparency. No one knew about this so-called advisory board. Most citizens in the community did not know about it. Only the chief and that board knew about themselves. Now, as we've learned about them, I can't take away some of the good work that they have done. But what they were there for was specific things. It was not in the capacity of advising Chief Barber on issues that concerned police infractions, malice within the department, and other cases of that, or complaints from the community. So their capacity was totally different. Chief Barber never brought it up until after this incident, and the community became into an uproar and said that they were tired of the complaints having complaints about the police department, and feeling like they had no recourse with it, they wanted to have a citizens review board.
Okay.
His initial thing was then, oh, I got one of those. Well, no one knew about it.
Right.
And then he never released the names initially. He just said, I had one, and we don't need another one. And he already knew that their capacity was totally different from what this community was calling for.
Right.
So why throw that out there? Well, we're not being transparent,
right,
but we're trying to skate around the issue. Okay. So then, as this became a snowball that could not be stopped at the time, then he releases the names later on and says some of the members, not all of them at the initial time, but some of the names of the people who were on his advisory board. And one of them happened to be the president of the Mobile chapter of the NAACP, Mr. Ronald Ali. Now, who was also one of the people that the chief said, for transparency, he had allowed to, or requested through the DA's office, to allow to view the autopsy.
So why do you think that Chief Barber would say, hey, I'm just going to let this guy from the NAACP go in and sit in on the autopsy when he's already basically in Chief Barber's pocket on his advisory board? What is it? Do you think it was to bring a calm to the black community? He was using that as to say, okay, we're going to let him go sit in, we're trying to show transparency? Or do you think it's something bigger than that?
I'm sure it's probably something bigger. I will say this, it doesn't look well. Whether Mr. Ali's intentions were admirable and up to par, I can't speak for him.
Did you ever talk to him prior?
Not prior. Not
to the autopsy?
No, not prior, no.
Okay.
I have talked to him since the autopsy, but of course, he can't reveal anything from the autopsy to us. For instance, we have not received a copy of the autopsy. They will not give the mother a copy of the autopsy. Just like we couldn't get a copy of the police report, she hasn't even gotten a copy of the autopsy.